She skipped the most important exam of her life, only to step into a moment that would change her destiny forever. Maya woke up that morning with a familiar mix of excitement and anxiety. Today was her final economics exam, the one she had been preparing for months. Every late night, every cup of coffee, every formula she had memorized was meant to lead up to this moment. She had studied diligently, making sure she understood not just the numbers, but the stories behind them. How markets worked, how decisions impacted real lives. To her, this exam wasn't just a test on paper. It was a test of her abilities, her future, and her dreams. Her parents had high hopes for her, and she wanted to make them proud. She had imagined walking out of the exam hall feeling the satisfaction of having done everything perfectly, knowing she had given it her best. But as she was about to leave her dorm, her phone rang. She frowned when she saw the caller ID. Aisha Kapoor. Maya barely knew her personally, but Aisha was a well-known CEO, a woman who had built a successful startup from scratch in an industry dominated by men. Maya had met her briefly at a university seminar a few months ago, and they had stayed in touch through professional messages. Maya didn't expect her call at this hour, especially on the day of her exam. She answered hesitantly, wondering what could be so urgent. "Hi, Maya. I'm really sorry to call you like this." Aisha's voice sounded stressed but controlled. "I have a problem, a big one, and I need your help immediately." Maya's curiosity was piqued, but she also felt the tension in her chest. She knew she had an exam in less than an hour. "Ms. Kapoor, I'm about to go for my final exam. Can it wait?" she asked. "No," Aisha replied firmly. "This can't wait. If this isn't fixed in the next few hours, we could lose a major investor, and the company could collapse." Maya froze. She had always dreamed of making a difference in the real world, but this was not the situation she had imagined facing at 21. The logical side of her mind screamed at her to go to the exam, do what she had prepared for, to think about her grades and her future career. But another part of her, the part that loved solving problems and challenges, felt drawn to this unexpected crisis. She remembered the first time she had helped a friend troubleshoot a financial model in class. Staying up all night and seeing the joy and relief on their face when the problem was solved, that feeling of being genuinely useful, it was addictive, even life-changing. She glanced at her study notes, then back at her phone. Aisha's voice was tense now, almost pleading. "Maya, I know this is asking a lot, but I truly believe you can help. You have the skills, and I trust you. Please, I don't have anyone else." Maya bit her lip. She thought about her professor, who was strict about attendance and rules. She thought about the months she had spent preparing, the long nights, the sacrifices she had made. And then she thought about the potential impact if she said no. A whole company, dozens of employees, families depending on its success. It was suddenly bigger than any exam. She could help make a real difference today, not just pass a test. Her heart raced as she weighed the decision. She imagined sitting in the exam hall, looking at the paper, and wondering if she had done enough to change the world. Then she imagined walking into Aisha's office, the city buzzing outside the tall glass windows, and actually being needed in a way she had never been before. The choice, as impossible as it seemed, became clear in that moment. "Okay," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of thoughts. "I'll come. I'll help." Aisha's relief was palpable. "Thank you, Maya. You don't know how much this means." Maya hung up and felt a mixture of fear and excitement. She had no idea what awaited her at the company's office, what problems she would have to solve, or if she would succeed. All she knew was that she had chosen a path that could change everything: her life, someone else's life, and maybe even the future of a company. She grabbed her bag, left her neatly arranged notes on her desk, and stepped out into the crisp morning air. As she traveled through the busy streets, she couldn't help but notice the ordinary world around her: street vendors setting up their carts, people rushing to work, cars honking impatiently. It all seemed surreal compared to the high-stakes scenario she was heading into. She tried to focus on calming her racing thoughts, reminding herself that she was capable, that she had faced challenges before, and that logic and careful thinking could solve almost anything. By the time she reached Aisha's office, Maya's nerves had transformed into determination. She entered the building and was greeted by the hum of phones ringing, computers clicking, and a team clearly stressed but trying to keep it together. Aisha approached her, looking both grateful and anxious. "Thank you for coming, Maya. I know you have your exam, and yet you're here. That already tells me something about you." Maya nodded, trying to push aside the guilt of skipping her exam. She was about to step into a world far more unpredictable than any exam hall, where mistakes could have real consequences. But she also felt alive in a way she had never felt before. The exam she had skipped could be retaken. The opportunity to help, to learn, and to make an impact, this was something rare, something extraordinary at that moment. Maya realized that life often presented unexpected choices, and the courage to take them could define a person more than any test score ever could. She took a deep breath, ready to dive into the challenge, unaware that this decision would not only test her skills, but also set the stage for something remarkable, something that would surprise everyone, including herself. Maya stepped into the sleek glass office of Aisha Kapoor's startup, feeling a rush of adrenaline. The air smelled faintly of coffee and paper, mixed with the nervous energy of a team on the edge. Everyone seemed busy, talking in hurried whispers, pointing at screens filled with charts, numbers, and graphs. It was a different world from the quiet lecture halls and libraries she was used to. Here, decisions were urgent and consequences were immediate. Maya's heart pounded as she followed Aisha to a small conference room, where the CEO quickly laid out the situation. Aisha explained that a major investor, someone who had poured millions into the company, was reconsidering their commitment. They had noticed inconsistencies in the latest quarterly projections and were threatening to pull out unless everything was clarified immediately. The company's future, the jobs of dozens of employees, and even Aisha's reputation were at stake. Maya listened carefully, absorbing every detail, every number, and every concern. She could feel the tension in the room, the silent weight of responsibility pressing down on her. Maya was nervous, of course. She was just a student, young and inexperienced compared to the seasoned executives around her. But she also felt a spark of confidence. She had spent years studying economics, analyzing data, and solving complex problems in her classes. This was real life now, not a textbook scenario. But her skills mattered more than ever. She reminded herself to stay calm, to focus, to trust her instincts. Aisha handed her a laptop filled with spreadsheets, charts, and projections. "Maya, I need you to look at these numbers and tell me what's wrong. I don't know how else to fix this in time." Her voice trembled slightly, showing the weight of her worry. Maya nodded, feeling the responsibility settle on her shoulders. She took a deep breath and began examining the data. The numbers were overwhelming at first. There were sales reports, expense sheets, projected growth percentages, and market analysis all tangled together. Maya could see why the investors were concerned. Some figures didn't match up, and certain projections seemed overly optimistic. But as she focused, she began to notice patterns, connections, and small mistakes that could easily be corrected. Her mind worked like a puzzle, sorting through the chaos and finding the weak spots that needed immediate attention. Hours passed like minutes. Maya barely noticed the time, completely absorbed in the problem. She explained her observations to Aisha in clear, calm words, pointing out the errors and suggesting adjustments. The team listened intently, impressed by her ability to analyze complex information quickly and accurately. Maya suggested a few strategies, adjusting certain projections to match realistic growth, communicating transparently with the investors about the changes, and presenting a solid, confident plan to regain trust. Aisha looked at her with a mix of awe and relief. "You're incredible," she said softly. "I didn't expect someone your age to handle this so well." Maya smiled nervously, feeling a sense of pride, but also the pressure of the task. It wasn't enough to simply understand the problem. They had to act fast, and everyone's eyes were on her suggestions. The team quickly implemented Maya's recommendations. She guided them through the corrections, showing exactly how to present the revised numbers and what to emphasize during their communication with the investors. Her calm presence seemed to soothe the anxious employees, giving them a sense of direction in a chaotic situation. Maya felt like a conductor, orchestrating the actions of the team to fix the problem before it grew any worse. By late afternoon, they were ready to contact the investors. Maya and Aisha prepared for the call together, rehearsing what they would say and how they would address potential questions. Maya's confidence grew as she realized the investors would likely respond positively to their honesty, careful analysis, and clear plan. She knew that her role was crucial not just in fixing numbers, but in giving everyone around her the courage to act decisively. When the call finally happened, Maya watched as Aisha presented the revised plan. The investors asked tough questions, scrutinized every detail, and challenged some assumptions. Maya had anticipated these challenges and whispered key points to Aisha when needed. Slowly but surely, the tone of the call shifted. The investors' skepticism turned into cautious optimism. By the end of the conversation, they agreed to continue their support, impressed by the thoroughness, honesty, quick problem-solving displayed by the team. The office erupted in quiet celebration. Employees exchanged relieved smiles and pats on the back. Aisha turned to Maya, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I can't thank you enough," she said. "You didn't just help me. You saved this company today." Maya felt a rush of emotion, a mixture of relief, pride, and disbelief. She had walked into an unfamiliar world, faced a challenge far beyond her experience, and actually made a real difference. Despite the exhaustion and the adrenaline crashing through her body, Maya felt alive in a way she hadn't in months of studying. She realized that real-life problems were messy, unpredictable, and stressful, but also deeply rewarding. Each number corrected, each question answered, and each decision made had tangible consequences. For the first time, Maya saw how her skills could impact real people. Not just grades on a paper, Aisha insisted on treating Maya to a quick dinner before she left, both to show appreciation and to give her a moment to breathe. As they sat in the small cafe near the office, Aisha shared stories of the company's struggles, the challenges she had faced as a female CEO in a male-dominated industry, and the obstacles she had overcome. Maya listened intently, absorbing not just the lessons in business, but in resilience, courage, and leadership. She realized that this experience was more than just a single act of help. It was a window into what she might achieve in her own future. By the time Maya left the office, night had fallen and the streets were quiet. She walked home slowly, replaying the day in her mind. She thought about the choice she had made that morning to skip her exam, about the fear and uncertainty, and about the unexpected thrill of actually making a difference. She knew she had risked something important in her academic performance, but she also knew that she had gained something far more valuable: experience, confidence, and a sense of purpose. Maya understood that life rarely gave second chances like this. The exam could be retaken, but the opportunity to step into a real crisis, to solve problems that mattered, was rare and precious. She felt proud of herself for taking that leap of faith, for trusting her instincts, and for rising to the challenge. The night air was cool on her face, and she walked with a quiet smile, knowing that today had changed her forever. The next morning, Maya arrived at Aisha's office with a mix of nerves and excitement. She had barely slept, thinking about the events of the previous day. The adrenaline had carried her through hours of problem-solving. But now a new challenge awaited, making sure the plan she had helped create would actually work in practice. The stakes were higher than ever, because even the smallest mistake could undo the progress they had made. She stepped into the bright office, where employees were already buzzing, some with nervous energy, some with cautious hope. The atmosphere was tense, but determined, and Maya felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders once again. Aisha greeted her with a smile that carried both relief and trust. "You were incredible yesterday, Maya. I don't know what we would have done without you," she said. Maya nodded, trying to hide her own excitement and fear. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction, but she also knew the real test was still ahead. The investors had been reassured on the call, but now it was time to show results and prove that the proposed solutions were more than just theory, had to work in reality. Maya immediately got to work, coordinating with the team to implement her suggestions fully. She reviewed financial statements, double-checked projections, and fine-tuned presentation materials. Every detail mattered, and she knew that precision and clarity would determine whether the investors' trust would hold. She moved from desk to desk, guiding employees, answering questions, and explaining why each step was necessary. Her confidence grew as she saw the team responding to her guidance. Their initial hesitation replaced with focus and determination. As the hours passed, unexpected problems cropped up. One of the key datasets was missing, and the team panicked, thinking it might delay the whole plan. Maya stayed calm. She suggested a quick solution, cross-referencing other reports and recalculating projections using alternative data sources. It took hours, but her patience and persistence paid off. The missing numbers were accounted for, and the projections became even stronger than before. The employees looked at her with new respect. She was no longer just a student helping out. She was a problem solver, someone they could rely on when the pressure was highest. Meanwhile, Maya noticed that Aisha was juggling multiple calls, trying to reassure staff and stakeholders while keeping the investors informed. The CEO looked exhausted but determined. Maya realized that leadership wasn't just about making decisions. It was also about staying composed under pressure and inspiring confidence in others. She admired Aisha's resilience and quietly absorbed the lessons she could carry into her own future. By late afternoon, everything was in place. The presentation for the investors was ready, the corrected numbers were verified, and the communication plan was polished. Maya and Aisha practiced together, rehearsing the key points and anticipating possible questions. Maya suggested emphasizing transparency, showing that the company had identified and fixed its mistakes quickly, and highlighting the team's ability to adapt under pressure. Aisha nodded, impressed by Maya's clarity and foresight. When the investors joined the video call, the tension in the room was almost palpable. Maya watched from the side as Aisha presented the revised plan. The investors asked tough, detailed questions, probing every aspect of the projections and assumptions. Maya stayed ready, quietly supporting Aisha by pointing out details, clarifying numbers, and providing data when needed. She felt a strange mix of nerves and exhilaration. The adrenaline that had fueled her yesterday had returned, but this time it was sharper. The investors' initial skepticism gave way to cautious optimism. They nodded at certain points, asked follow-up questions in a constructive tone, and seemed genuinely impressed with the team's quick and thorough response. Maya felt a quiet thrill as she realized that her contributions were making a tangible difference. Every calculation she had double-checked, every explanation she had provided, was helping restore the investors' confidence by the end of the call. The investors agreed to maintain their support for the company. The relief in the room was immediate. Employees exchanged smiles, whispered congratulations, and clapped each other on the back. Aisha turned to Maya with a look of pure gratitude. "You did this, Maya. You really did this. You helped save the company." Maya's chest swelled with pride. She had entered this world as a student, uncertain of her place, and now stood recognized for her intelligence, composure, and courage under pressure. The team celebrated quietly, mindful that the work wasn't entirely over, but relieved that the crisis had been averted. Maya felt a deep sense of fulfillment that she had never experienced during long study sessions or exam preparations. Real-world challenges were unpredictable, yes, but they were also meaningful. The results she had helped achieve had consequences that mattered. People kept their jobs, company continued to grow, and trust had been rebuilt. Aisha insisted on taking Maya aside for a moment. She led her to her office, a spacious room with large windows overlooking the city. "Maya," she said, "what you did yesterday and today is extraordinary. Most people would have run away from this pressure, but you stepped in and handled it with skill and grace. You have something rare, and I want to help you nurture it." She offered Maya the opportunity to join a mentorship program, to gain real-world experience while still finishing her studies, and even mentioned a small scholarship to support young women interested in entrepreneurship. Maya was stunned. She hadn't expected anything beyond a simple thank you as Maya walked home later that evening. The city lights reflected on the wet streets after a brief rain, creating a shimmering effect that seemed almost magical. She replayed the past 2 days in her mind, the panic of the morning call, The hours of number crunching, the tension-filled investor meeting, and the eventual relief and success. She felt changed in a way she couldn't fully describe. Her confidence had grown, her perspective on challenges had shifted, and she had discovered that she could make a real difference when it mattered most. Maya realized that life was full of unexpected opportunities. Moments that tested courage, intellect, and character. The choice she had made to skip her exam, though risky, had given her an experience far richer than any classroom scenario. She understood now that the value of learning extended beyond grades. It was about applying knowledge, taking risks, and stepping into challenges that truly mattered. She felt proud, but also humbled. This experience had reminded her that success wasn't just about personal achievement. It was about contributing to something larger than oneself. The lives she had touched, the company she had helped save, and the trust she had earned were rewards she had never imagined. As she finally entered her quiet dorm room, Maya allowed herself a moment to breathe deeply, smile, and reflect on the extraordinary journey that had begun with a single choice to help someone in need despite the personal cost. Maya woke up the next morning with a quiet sense of satisfaction, but it was quickly replaced by a creeping worry. The previous 2 days had been a whirlwind of challenges, adrenaline, and unexpected success. She had helped save Aisha's company, gained invaluable real-world experience, and even earned the CEO's personal admiration. But now, the reality of the choice she had made, the choice to skip her final economics exam, began to weigh heavily on her. She had put everything on the line for someone else, and the consequences of that decision were unavoidable. She headed to her university, her backpack feeling heavier than usual, filled not only with books, but with the anxiety of the unknown. The exam had been scheduled for the previous day, and she had no prior arrangement with her professor to take it later. She had assumed she could explain the situation, but the thought of facing a strict professor filled her with dread. As she walked into the building, she saw students filing into classrooms, chatting about how they had prepared, exchanging nervous smiles. The normal rhythm of campus life now felt distant and irrelevant compared to the high-stakes pressure she had just experienced at the startup. When Maya approached her professor's office, she hesitated for a moment, taking a deep breath to steady herself. The professor, a stern and no-nonsense figure, looked up as she knocked. "Maya, what brings you here?" he asked, already sensing that this was not going to be a routine visit. I missed the exam," Maya began, her voice calm but determined. "I had an emergency where I had to help someone in a critical situation." She explained briefly what had happened, describing Aisha Kapoor's company and the financial crisis that had threatened its future. The professor listened, his face unreadable, occasionally raising an eyebrow. When she finished, he leaned back and said firmly, "Maya, rules are rules. Exams are scheduled for a reason. Missing one is serious. I'm not sure we can make exceptions." Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had known this could happen, but she hadn't realized how rigid the system could be. The months of preparation, the sleepless nights, and the real-world impact of her actions seemed to carry little weight in this formal, academic setting. But she didn't give up. She calmly presented the situation again, emphasizing the urgency of the crisis, the tangible impact she had made, and the skills she had applied under pressure. "I know I missed the exam, sir," she said, "but I believe what I did was meaningful and taught me lessons no classroom could. I want to take the exam at another time if possible." The professor remained silent for a moment, clearly weighing her words. Then he shook his head slightly. "I understand your intentions, Maya, but the rules of the university exist to ensure fairness for all students. I cannot simply allow one student to skip an exam and take it later without proper authorization." Maya left the office feeling a mix of disappointment and frustration. She had helped save a company, shown remarkable skill under pressure, and yet here in the academic world she had trusted for years. She was being judged by strict rules that seemed blind to real-world achievement. But as she walked through the campus, she noticed something unexpected. Some of her classmates were approaching her, whispering congratulations and admiration. Word of her actions at the startup had spread quickly, and students were genuinely impressed by her courage and intelligence. The support of her peers gave her renewed hope. She realized that while the official system might be rigid, people, students, faculty, even outsiders recognized the significance of what she had done. Over the next few days, the story began to gain traction. Social media posts, small news articles, and campus newsletters highlighted Maya's heroic actions. People praised her for putting herself on the line, solving real-world problems, stepping into a situation that demanded courage and intellect. The story painted her as a student who prioritized meaningful action over personal convenience. And it resonated with many who admired ambition and selflessness. The growing recognition eventually reached the administration. Maya was invited to meet with the dean, who had read about her actions and wanted to discuss her case personally. During the meeting, the dean acknowledged the seriousness of missing the exam, but also recognized the extraordinary circumstances. "Maya," the dean said thoughtfully, "you made a choice that very few people would have had the courage to make. You applied your knowledge in a way that had a tangible impact. We need to find a solution that respects both the rules and your achievement." After careful consideration, the university decided to allow Maya to retake the exam at a later date under special circumstances. It wasn't an easy process, and she had to provide documentation and formal explanations. But the result was a compromise that acknowledged both her responsibility as a student and her remarkable contributions outside the classroom. Maya felt a deep sense of relief. The weight of worry that had pressed on her shoulders began to lift, replaced by gratitude and quiet pride. At the same time, Maya continued to hear from people who had followed her story. Entrepreneurs, professors, and even other students reached out to congratulate her, ask for advice, or simply express admiration. She realized that her choice had created ripples far beyond what she had imagined. The situation she had walked into as a simple act of helping someone had turned into a lesson for many about courage, responsibility, and the power of taking initiative. The experience also gave Maya a new perspective on the academic system and the real world. She understood that rules were important, but she also realized that real-life problems rarely fit neatly into scheduled exams and lectures. Life often required flexibility, judgment, and the willingness to take risks. Her actions had demonstrated that knowledge alone was not enough. It had to be applied wisely, boldly, and with empathy. Through it all, Aisha remained a constant source of support. She continued to mentor Maya, offering guidance, encouragement, and opportunities for further involvement in the business world. Their bond grew stronger as Maya learned not just about finance and entrepreneurship, but also about leadership, resilience, and integrity. Aisha often reminded her that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it, a lesson Maya would carry for the rest of her life. Looking back, Maya realized that missing the exam had been one of the most difficult but ultimately transformative decisions of her young life. It had tested her character, challenged her priorities, and forced her to navigate uncharted territory. In the end, the consequences she faced were balanced by the lessons she learned, the recognition she earned, and the doors that opened for her future. She had faced a dilemma that many would have avoided, yet she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident in her ability to make a real difference in the world. Maya's story began to inspire others on campus. Students who had previously focused only on grades started thinking about the broader impact they could have with their knowledge. Professors referenced her actions as an example of practical application, and even administrators recognized the need to consider real-world achievements alongside formal evaluations. Maya's experience became more than just a personal journey. It became a catalyst for change in her university community, showing that courage, intelligence, and selflessness could be recognized and celebrated in unexpected ways. By the time Maya finally prepared to take her rescheduled exam, she felt a quiet confidence she had never felt before. The experience of helping Aisha's company, navigating high-stakes pressure, and facing the consequences of her choice had shaped her in profound ways. She understood that life would continue to present difficult choices, but she now trusted herself to make them with courage, clarity, and compassion. Maya walked into the examination hall on the day of her rescheduled economics exam with a quiet sense of calm. The months of preparation she had invested were still with her. But now she carried something far more valuable, real-life experience that had tested her intellect, patience, and courage under pressure. She knew the exam was important, but she also understood that her growth over the past few days had already given her lessons that no test could measure. As she settled into her seat and looked at the familiar paper in front of her, she smiled slightly. This time, the challenge was different. It was not about numbers on a page or memorized formulas. It was about confidence, perspective, and the ability to approach problems calmly. Just as she had done at Aisha's company, the exam began, and Maya worked steadily, her mind sharp and focused. Concepts that had seemed complex before now felt manageable, as if the hours of real-world problem-solving had honed her analytical abilities. Each question reminded her of decisions she had made while helping Aisha, and she found herself applying practical thinking, not just theoretical knowledge. For the first time, she felt a connection between her studies and the world outside the university walls. Time flew by, and by the end of the exam, she felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing she had done her best. After the exam, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Maya returned to Aisha's office to continue her mentorship and involvement with the startup. The bond between them had grown stronger over the past weeks, and Aisha treated her not just as a helper, but as a trusted advisor. Maya contributed to small projects, helped analyze data, and provided insights that impressed even the senior staff. Each day brought new challenges, and each challenge strengthened her skills. Her confidence meant her sense of purpose. News of Maya's achievements began to spread beyond the university and startup circles. Local news outlets and online media highlighted her story, emphasizing how a young student had stepped up in a critical moment to save a company from financial disaster. People were inspired not just by her intelligence, but by her willingness to put herself on the line for someone else. The story went viral on social media, and Maya received messages of admiration and encouragement from strangers, students, young professionals, and even entrepreneurs she had never met. Her courage and initiative became an example for many, showing that age and status did not define one's ability to make a difference. Amid all the attention, Maya remained humble. She continued to focus on her studies, the mentorship with Aisha, and helping wherever she could. Yet she began to notice opportunities opening up in ways she hadn't expected. Aisha invited her to attend business meetings, network with investors, and even speak at a small entrepreneurship seminar for young students. Each experience expanded Maya's horizons and showed her the power of combining knowledge with action. She realized that her decision to skip the exam had opened doors far beyond the classroom, providing her with experiences that would shape her future career and character in profound ways. The university also recognized Maya's extraordinary efforts. Her rescheduled exam results were outstanding, reflecting both her academic preparation and the maturity she had gained from real-world experience. Professors praised her not just for her grades, but for the remarkable initiative she had shown outside the classroom. Maya's story was used as an example in lectures and seminars, demonstrating how knowledge, courage, and ethical decision-making could intersect to create real-world impact. Her actions sparked conversations about practical learning, mentorship, and the value of stepping up in moments of crisis. Aisha personally acknowledged Maya's contributions in a more public way. During a small company gathering, she praised Maya in front of the team, expressing gratitude for her courage, intelligence, and calm under pressure. She highlighted how Maya's quick thinking and problem-solving had not only saved the company from financial peril, but it also inspired the entire team. Maya felt a deep sense of pride and fulfillment as she listened to Aisha's words. It was a recognition she had never anticipated, and it made her realize that taking risks for the right reasons could lead to meaningful rewards. The mentorship program with Aisha continued, giving Maya opportunities to apply her knowledge to real-world projects. She worked on financial analyses, market research, and operational strategies, all while balancing her academic responsibilities. Each project reinforced the lessons she had learned: how to stay calm under pressure, how to communicate effectively, and how to approach problems creatively. She realized that these experiences were far more valuable than any textbook exercise, shaping her understanding of leadership, responsibility, and ethical decision-making. Over time, Maya's story became more than just a tale of a student helping a CEO. It became a source of inspiration for others. Young students, especially women interested in entrepreneurship and leadership, looked up to her as a role model. She began receiving invitations to speak at workshops, universities, and youth programs. Sharing her experiences and encouraging others to step up when opportunities to make a difference arose, Maya understood the importance of using her platform to inspire others, just as she had been inspired by Aisha. Despite the growing recognition, Maya never lost her humility. She continued to approach each challenge with focus, curiosity, and a willingness to learn. She understood that true achievement was not about fame or praise, but about the impact one could create, the lives one could touch, and the lessons one could carry forward. Every success, every opportunity, was a reminder of the choice she had made that morning to help someone in need despite the personal cost. That decision had changed her life in ways she had never imagined. Maya's parents, friends, and professors also saw a remarkable transformation. They noticed how confident, mature, and composed she had become. The young student who had once been anxious about exams now spoke with clarity and conviction, sharing insights and experiences that inspired those around her. They understood that Maya's journey was about more than academic achievement. It was about personal growth, courage, and the willingness to step into challenges bigger than herself. Eventually, Maya reflected on the journey she had undertaken over the past weeks. What had started as a single choice to help someone else had evolved into a series of experiences that reshaped her understanding of success, responsibility, and opportunity. She realized that life often presented moments where difficult choices had to be made, and that courage and integrity mattered more than comfort or convenience. By stepping up when it mattered most, she had not only made a difference for Aisha and her company, but she had also discovered her own potential and purpose in the months that followed. Maya continued to thrive academically and professionally. She maintained her studies, excelled in exams, and balanced her growing responsibilities at the startup. She had earned recognition, mentorship, and opportunities that most students could only dream of. More importantly, she had gained confidence in her ability to navigate challenges, to make impactful decisions, and to embrace risks when necessary. She understood that the lessons she had learned, courage, resilience, and problem-solving would guide her for the rest of her life. Maya's story became a testament to the power of initiative, intelligence, and ethical decision-making. It showed that one courageous choice could create ripples far beyond what was imagined, affecting lives, communities, and even industries. For Maya, the journey had been transformative. She had started as a student facing a simple exam and had emerged as a young woman, capable of making a tangible impact in the real world. Her decision to skip an exam to help someone else had not only saved a company, but it also shaped her destiny, teaching her lessons that no classroom could ever provide. In the end, Maya understood that life's greatest rewards often come from the courage to step forward when it matters most. The recognition, the opportunities, and the success she gained were meaningful. But the real gift was the knowledge that she had made a difference, that she had acted with integrity, and that she had grown into someone capable of handling whatever challenges life might place in her path. She had taken a risk, faced uncertainty, and embraced responsibility, and in doing so, she had transformed herself, inspiring countless others along the way.